All right, so get ready, because today we're diving into a world, uh, it's a world that's both fascinating and a little unsettling.
Yeah, we're dealing with a first-hand account here. A first-hand account that takes us down this rabbit hole of something called gang stalking.
Yeah, and this is definitely a topic that requires us to think critically as we explore this, explore
Mhm.
one man's claims about this alleged phenomenon.
Exactly. So our source material for today comes from Michael Barden. He claims to be a targeted individual, or TI, as they're often called. And he's meticulously documented all of these experiences. He believes he's the victim of this persistent harassment and intimidation, often involving these elaborate coordinated efforts to disrupt his life, which he calls gang stalking.
And this isn't just like your everyday run-of-the-mill stalking we're talking about here. Barden describes everything from slander and property damage to relationship sabotage, and all orchestrated by this alleged network of people that he calls gang stalkers. Wild story, to say the least. And it's fascinating because he describes all of these everyday events, things that many of us might just brush off as coincidence or just bad luck, but he interprets them as these deliberate tactics by these gang stalkers.
Yeah, you know what's so fascinating to me is that it shows how our brains can easily connect the dots. Our brains can find patterns even when they might not actually exist. And this is only amplified even more so when someone is already primed to believe that they're being targeted.
Oh, so you're saying confirmation bias could be at play here.
Yeah.
You're saying Barden might be selectively noticing and interpreting events to fit this pre-existing belief that he's a targeted individual.
It's certainly a possibility worth considering, but let's actually dive into some of the specific tactics that Barden describes and see what we can make of them. He talks about these recurring street theater events. He believes they are specifically designed to antagonize him and make him look unstable.
Okay, so give me an example. What does this street theater actually look like?
Okay, so imagine this. You're walking through a store, and suddenly someone just like appears out of nowhere and blocks your path right as you're about to turn a corner. Or let's say you're driving, and a car pulls out in front of you at an intersection, forcing you to slam on your brakes.
Those just sound like those everyday annoyances that we've all experienced. So what makes Barden interpret them as something more sinister?
Well, he believes that these seemingly mundane actions are deliberate and coordinated.
Hmm.
He thinks it's all part of this larger effort to disrupt his life and make him question his own sanity. He even describes people intentionally slowing down in front of his truck, staring at him, even using specific hand signals that he believes are meant to intimidate or threaten him.
And he even mentions these babysitters, these people who just wait in parking lots and seemingly monitor his every move. It's like he feels constantly watched, constantly surrounded by these unseen forces.
Yeah, this idea of constant surveillance is something that we see come up time and time again in a lot of different conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
You know, it taps into this primal fear of being observed and controlled, a fear that's even heightened in our digital age with, all the data collection, all the algorithms tracking our every move.
So Barney's claims about gang stalking could be a reflection of these broader anxieties about privacy and the erosion of individual autonomy. It's almost like a way to explain these feelings of powerlessness and mistrust in a world that just feels increasingly complex and unpredictable.
Exactly. And, for someone like Barton, who already believes he's a targeted individual, every coincidence, every strange look, every frustrating encounter becomes further evidence of this elaborate conspiracy against him.
Wow, so it's almost like he's living in a different reality, a reality where these everyday occurrences are imbued with this hidden meaning and sinister intent.
Yeah, and what's particularly interesting is that there's this lack of a clear motive. Why would this network of people go to such lengths to harass and torment him? What do they stand to gain?
Yeah, that's a great question. Barton does offer a few theories about the motivations behind gang stalking, but they often veer into this realm of speculation and conjecture.
Well, let's explore those theories in more detail. What does Barden believe is the ultimate goal of this alleged harassment campaign?
So he describes it as this psychological operation that's aimed at silencing and discrediting individuals. He believes these gang stalkers are using specific tactics that are designed to induce paranoia, induce stress, and ultimately make their targets appear mentally unstable.
This fits into a broader narrative that's really gained traction in recent years, particularly online. It taps into those fears about government overreach, surveillance programs, and the potential for abuse of power by these authorities.
And Barton even goes as far as to connect his alleged gang stalking to his personal life. He's claiming that his failed marriage, issues with his ex-wife's car, are all somehow linked to this larger conspiracy.
Yeah, this tendency to connect seemingly unrelated events and find patterns in those coincidences is just another hallmark of that conspiracy thinking. It's like creating this narrative that brings order and meaning to a chaotic and unpredictable world.
But without any independent corroboration or evidence to support his claims. It's really difficult to separate Barden's personal experiences and interpretations from objective reality.
That's the challenge we always face when dealing with these firsthand accounts. We need to approach them with both empathy and a healthy dose of skepticism, recognizing the power of belief and the potential for misinterpretation.
So what do we make of Barden's story? Is he a credible witness to this disturbing phenomena? Or is he caught in a web of his own making, fueled by paranoia and misinterpretation?
That is the question we'll continue to grapple with as we delve deeper into his account.
All right, then let's take a closer look at some of the specific organizations and individuals that Barden believes are involved in this alleged gang stalking campaign. Because he doesn't hold back. He names names and points fingers in some pretty unexpected directions.
He casts a really wide net, that's for sure. His list of these alleged perpetrators includes everyone from Home Depot employees and Freemasons to law enforcement officers and even just people he's encountered online.
Wait a minute. Home Depot employees. What does he think they're doing strategically placing buckets of paint in his path or something?
Well, it might sound kind of outlandish, but he describes these really elaborate scenarios where he believes that employees seem to be intentionally slowing him down, blocking aisles, making him wait longer than other customers. He's just convinced that they're part of this, coordinated effort to harass him.
Wow, it's amazing how the mind can create these narratives,
Mm-hmm.
finding meaning in even the most mundane interactions. Like he's seeing this hidden code in like everyday life.
Yeah, that's the power of belief, right? When you're convinced that you're being targeted, even the smallest inconvenience can feel like a deliberate attack. He also talks about these incidents at the post office, grocery stores, even at the Apple store. He believes that employees are, subtly mocking him or giving him these knowing looks.
And he even mentions Freemasons too, which seems like a pretty classic conspiracy theory trope. What's his beef with them?
Well, he claims that he actually visited a local Masonic lodge and felt like he was being gaslit, given evasive answers. And to him, it's just proof that they're hiding something, possibly even orchestrating this whole gang stalking campaign against him.
Yeah, it's interesting how these theories often tap into these cultural anxieties we have about secret societies and powerful groups operating behind the scenes. It just feeds into this sense of powerlessness and mistrust of authority.
Right, and it's not just organizations that he's accusing. Barden also names specific individuals that he believes are involved, including his ex-wife. He actually links his alleged gang stalking to his failed marriage, claiming that she was somehow involved or used as like a pawn in this larger scheme.
Man, it's just a sad situation when these personal grievances and these relationship breakdowns get entangled with these conspiracy theories. It can really distort someone's perception of reality. Yeah. And make it just super difficult to move on.
Oh, absolutely. He blames his ex-wife for, various misfortunes, from stealing his car to racking up tickets, and just sees it all as part of this orchestrated campaign to destroy his life.
But without even hearing her side of the story,
Uh-huh.
it's impossible to even know the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
But it really highlights the potential harm that these beliefs can inflict on those personal relationships.
Right. And let's move on to another layer of Barden's claims.
Yeah.
Technology. He believes that his phone and computer are being hacked and manipulated, that his online activity is being monitored, and that even his internet connection is being sabotaged.
So it's like he feels surrounded by these unseen forces, not only in the physical realm, but also in the digital realm. I mean, it must be incredibly unsettling to live with that level of paranoia and suspicion.
Yeah, he describes these incidents where, his internet cuts out at these crucial moments, like during an online interview,
Yeah.
or his phone battery just drains rapidly for no apparent reason. And to him, it's all evidence of this gang stalking campaign.
I mean, he might just be experiencing legitimate technical difficulties or something. Or maybe he's just misinterpreting normal glitches,
Yeah.
and attributing them to this conspiracy. It's hard to say without any concrete evidence.
Yeah, and that's a recurring theme in his narrative. He makes these huge leaps in logic, connecting these seemingly unrelated events and finding meaning in these coincidences.
Well, yeah, like, for example, he mentions red cars. He seems like totally fixated on them, claiming they play a significant role in this gang stalking network. It's as if he's assigned some symbolic meaning to this specific color.
It's really fascinating how these seemingly arbitrary details can just take on such significance in the mind of someone who believes they're being targeted, like they're constructing their own personal mythology around it.
And he seems so convinced that, like, everyone around him is in on it too, even children. He describes incidents where kids will walk slowly in front of his truck or block his path, and he interprets these actions as deliberate tactics.
And this is really where things start to get really concerning. Attributing malicious intent to the actions of children is a disturbing sign of how deeply ingrained these beliefs can become.
It's important to remember that we're only hearing Barden's side of the story, you know. We have no way of verifying any of his claims, or even knowing the full context of these situations.
Absolutely. But his account does raise some really important questions. Questions about the nature of belief, the power of confirmation bias, and just the slippery slope of that conspiracy thinking.
So what does this all mean for us, the listeners? How do we make sense of Barden's claims and this whole concept of gang stalking?
Well, it's certainly a challenge to parse out what might be genuine distress from what could be misinterpretation or delusion. But Barden's story serves as a reminder that these beliefs are out there, and they can have very real consequences.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder of the importance of critical thinking, media literacy, and empathy in an age where misinformation spreads like wildfire.
We need to be mindful of the ways in which our own biases and anxieties can shape our perception of reality. And we need to be cautious about jumping to conclusions or spreading these unverified claims.
And it's also crucial to recognize that while Barden's story is definitely unsettling, it doesn't necessarily represent the experience of everyone who claims to be a targeted individual.
You know, there's a whole spectrum of beliefs and experiences within the gang stalking community, and it's important to avoid generalizations.
Okay, so we've explored the specifics of Barden's claims and the potential psychological factors at play here. But where does gang stalking fit into the larger cultural landscape? Like, how did this idea even originate, and why has it gained traction, especially online?
That's a great question and definitely one worth exploring. In the final part of this deep dive, we're going to zoom out and examine gang stalking as a cultural phenomenon. We'll trace its roots, analyze its evolution in the digital age, and consider its potential implications for individuals and society as a whole.
So where does this whole idea of gang stalking even come from? Like, it feels like something that just kind of emerged from like the depths of the internet or something. But I have a feeling that the roots probably go a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not entirely a product of the digital age. I mean, you can trace threads of it back to like historical anxieties about things like surveillance, secret societies, even like mind control experiments and things like that. These themes have been around for centuries, really. You know, finding expression in folklore and literature and all these different conspiracy theories throughout history.
So it's kind of like a modern manifestation of those age-old fears and suspicions,
Yeah.
amplified and reshaped by the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The internet has acted as this catalyst, creating these echo chambers where like-minded individuals can connect, share their experiences, and reinforce each other's beliefs. What was once whispered in hushed tones is now broadcast on, social media and forums and even dedicated websites.
And with the explosion of information online, it's easier than ever to just cherry-pick these data points, find patterns that fit a pre-existing narrative, and construct these elaborate theories without much outside scrutiny.
Yeah, it's like the perfect breeding ground for conspiracy theories. And gang stalking also tacks into a lot of our contemporary anxieties, too. Think about the erosion of privacy in the digital age, the increasing power of algorithms, the rise of surveillance technologies. It's really not surprising that some people feel like they're being watched and manipulated.
Right, and gang stalking just provides this framework for understanding those feelings, this narrative that makes sense of a world that can feel very chaotic and unpredictable.
It gives a simple explanation for these complex and unsettling phenomena. It creates a sense of community and shared purpose for those who feel isolated and powerless. And it also provides a target for their anger and frustration.
But we can't ignore the potential consequences of these beliefs. It's one thing to feel paranoid or suspicious, but what happens when those feelings escalate into real-world actions?
That's like the dark side of this phenomenon. I mean, we've seen these tragic cases where individuals are so convinced that they were victims of gang stalking, that they've actually lashed out violently, harming themselves or others.
It's a reminder that beliefs, however outlandish they may seem,
Yeah.
they can have very real-world consequences.
Absolutely. And even if it doesn't lead to violence, the psychological toll can be just absolutely devastating. Imagine living with this constant fear that you're being watched, followed, and harassed. It can lead to social isolation, anxiety, depression, and just a profound sense of distrust in other people.
So how do we even address this issue? Is there any way to combat the spread of these beliefs and help people who are struggling with these delusions?
It's a very complex challenge, and there's definitely no easy solution. But one approach is to promote critical thinking skills and media literacy. giving people the tools to evaluate information sources and identify that misinformation.
It's like teaching them how to navigate the digital landscape, separate fact from fiction, and recognize those telltale signs of conspiracy theories.
Exactly. We also need to foster a lot more empathy and understanding. Instead of just dismissing people who believe in gang stalking as, crazy or delusional, we need to engage with their concerns, try to understand the underlying psychological and social factors that might be contributing to their beliefs.
It's about recognizing that these beliefs often stem from genuine fear, anxiety, and a desire to make sense of a complex and often unsettling world.
And sometimes just simply listening and validating someone's experiences without necessarily agreeing with their interpretations can be a very powerful first step in building trust and opening up that dialogue.
Yeah, well, this deep dive has definitely taken us down a winding path.
Yeah.
From the specifics of Michael Barden's claims to a broader exploration of gang stalking as a cultural phenomenon, it's been quite the journey into the world of belief paranoia and the human need to just make sense of the unexplainable.
We've explored the power of that confirmation bias, the allure of those simple explanations in a really complex world, and the potential consequences of these beliefs for individuals and for society as a whole.
And we've also touched on the importance of critical thinking, media literacy, and empathy in navigating these murky waters of online information. We've seen how these seemingly fringe beliefs can actually reflect those deeper anxieties about privacy, surveillance, and the erosion of trust in institutions.
But ultimately, I think this is a story about the human condition. Our vulnerability to fear and suspicion, our yearning for connection and meaning, and our struggle to make sense of a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable.
And as we wrap up this deep dive today, I hope it's left you with more questions than answers, because that's the essence of true exploration: to challenge our assumptions, to grapple with uncomfortable truths, and to emerge with a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
So the next time you encounter a story like Michael Barden's, a claim that seems outlandish or unbelievable, take a moment to pause, to question, to dig a little bit deeper. Don't just accept or dismiss it outright. Engage with it critically, empathetically, and with a healthy dose of skepticism.
And remember that the pursuit of truth is an ongoing journey, one that requires humility, open-mindedness, and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions.
That's what we're all about here on The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this unsettling but ultimately illuminating exploration.